Greetings. I'm Assemblyman Al Sturpey, co-chair of the Economic Development Joint Subcommittee. I'd like to introduce the following Assembly members. Assemblymember Carrie Warner, Marianne Buttonshaw, Steve Otis, Michael Cashman, Matt Slater, and Scott Bendet. Senator.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Greetings. I am Senator April Baskin, also co-chair of the Economic Development Joint Subcommittee, and I would like to introduce the following senators. Senator Joseph Addabbo, Senator Andrew Gennardis, Senator George Borrello, and Senator Stephen Chan. I will now go over the Joint Budget Subcommittee guidelines. Subcommittee guidelines. Co-chairs shall determine all matters are parliamentary procedure unless otherwise specified by these rules. Any dispute with regard to procedure that cannot be resolved by the co-chairs shall be referred back to the General Conference Committee and shall be resolved by the co-chairs of the General Conference Committee. Co-chairs shall each designate a staff person to serve as the secretary for the purpose of taking minutes. An alternate may participate in a subcommittee meeting, but shall not vote upon any deliberations of such subcommittee unless he or she has been designated to fill an excused vacancy in such subcommittee. The designation shall be made by the co-chair of the General Conference Committee representing the House in which the excused vacancy exists. If such vacancy is in a minority seat on a subcommittee, then the designation shall be made upon the recommendation of the respective House's minority representative of the General Conference Committee. Such designation shall be made as soon as predictable by the appropriate co-chair by providing notice to the other co-chair of the General Conference Committee. An excused absence in the General Conference Committee may be filled by temporary designation of a member by the co-chair of the General Conference Committee representing the House in which the excused vacancy exists. No subcommittee members or alternate members shall be permitted to participate via proxy. Subcommittees shall restrict their deliberations to their respective subject areas as determined by the General Conference Committee. Any issues which are determined to be non-germane by the co-chairs shall be referred back to the General Conference Committee. Each member shall be permitted a reasonable period of time as determined by the co-chairs to discuss any matter germane to the subject area of the subcommittee. No report shall be filed except upon the affirmative vote of a majority of the members of each House's delegation on the subcommittee. Sean O'Brien will serve as the recording secretary for the Senate.
Yes, and Adam Tenney will serve as the recording secretary for the Assembly. The following agencies will be discussed at the Economic Development Joint Conference Committee: Department of Economic Development, Urban Development Corporation, Division of Alcohol and Beverage Control, Office of Cannabis Management, and the New York State Gaming Commission. We look forward to working with the Senate and the Executive on increasing vital funding for innovation hotspots and incubators, minority and women-owned businesses, biomedical research, centers of excellence, and centers of advanced technology. We also look forward to discussing the inclusion of funding for teacher and school paraprofessional workforce development initiatives and funding for New York First grants to medical researchers.
And we look forward to working with the Assembly and the Executive on increasing essential funding for centers of excellence, centers of advanced technology, minority and women-owned businesses, chambers of commerce, alive downtowns, theaters, grants for cultural institutions, and local tourism matching grants. We also look forward to discussing the inclusion of public safety and security equipment included in the Monroe-Rochester Initiative Project and Food Retail Establishment Subsidization for Healthy Communities Program. Okay, we will open the floor for comment.
Any of the senators?
Any of the senators wish to comment? Okay, Senator Borrello.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you for including me on this. You know, I'm in addition to being a New York State Senator from the 57th Senate District in Western New York, I'm also myself a small business owner. So I understand the issues. You know, small business is the backbone of New York's economy. We employ about 45% of the total workforce and make up 99% of the businesses in New York State. So New York State business is small business. And the best thing that we can do in this body is reduce our costs and burdens on our small businesses and then get out of the way. Business is best when it's free to do what it does best, and that's create economic development on its own. You know, the biggest challenge I hear every single day from my fellow business owners is increased costs. The cost of electricity, energy in general, the cost of all the burdensome regulations here. So while I appreciate the fact that we are going to do things here to hopefully, you know, give out some funding, the best thing we can do is remove those barriers. And that's what's important here. Of the 422,000 small businesses here in New York State, what I hear over and over again is that New York continues to have their boot on the necks of small businesses. And that's what we have to stop here. We have to stop restricting people's ability to generate income. We have to stop treating the folks that are actually paying the bills and providing the tax dollars as the enemy. And if New York State could spend its way into affordability, we should be the most affordable state in the nation because we spend more than any other state in the nation. And that's really the challenge here. The challenge here is how do we remove the barriers so New Yorkers can be successful, so that small business owners can thrive. And that's what's going to keep people from leaving this state and taking the jobs and their tax dollars with them. So with that, I'd like to also see if Senator Chan would be interested in making a comment, if that's okay with you, Madam Chair.
Senator Chan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Borrello. So as we just heard from Senator Borrello, we are from the opposite corners of New York State, but the sentiment is the same. And we need to do what we can to help the small businesses stay open and reward the owners of these small businesses for their hard work. And these businesses, my district is small in size in comparison to Senator Borrello's, but the population is dense. And these storefronts are closely packed together, and I visit them often, from buying a pack of candy to stopping by for a cup of coffee, and I speak to these store owners, and the complaints are the same. The high utility costs, the electricity bills, the gas bills, the property tax bills, the cost of fines and regulations, permits. We need to do what we can to help them stay open because they, like Senator Borrello said, to build on that, they are the backbone of our economy. It's, they're scared. It's scary. Their salaries and income, whether they're a small business owner or a working class person, is just simply not catching up to the cost of living in New York City, as well as the rest of the state. We have a golden opportunity here to insert provisions in the budget to work with the executive branch to help these businesses stay open and provide some great savings to the ratepayers as well as the businesses, and such as provide the tax holiday for on the utilities for 1 year. I hope that we can come up with solutions to help our citizens, small business owners, everyone alike, have a more affordable fiscal year coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Adabo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank Chair Baskin and Chair Sturpey and my colleagues for what lies ahead in the coming weeks. Chair of the Racing, Gaming, and Wagering Committee, certainly as we look into this budget in terms of the $5 billion industry that gaming brings to our state, but not only to help the OTBs and the horse racing industry and our local casinos, but more importantly, the addiction issue. And in this budget, I think in the end, when the dust settles on this budget, you will find that we will have, again, a program and a pathway forward to helping more individuals, not only with an addiction, but pre-addiction. And I do look forward to working with my colleagues on that issue of addiction. So again, I thank you all for being here, and I look forward to working with my colleagues and the governor's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Chair.
Okay, Assemblywoman,
Warner.
okay,
okay.
brain fart. I know, it's been a long day.
It has been. Thank you, Chair Baskin, Chair Sturpey. As the Assembly's Chair of the Racing and Wagering Committee, I join my colleague in wanting to make sure that as we go through this budget process, we are retain a focus on strengthening what is a $500 billion industry in New York that creates many, many jobs, that supports agriculture across the state, and supports education in the state. As we work through this process, I, like my colleague, are focused on the issues of problem gambling and how do we support treatment and recovery, but more than that, how do we ensure that what is meant to be entertainment does not devolve into compulsive play and an addiction problem. We're also very concerned about making sure that people have faith in the integrity of the sport, particularly in racing, and I will look forward to working with my colleagues to implement a stronger drug testing program, particularly in the harness racing industry. So I look forward to working with everybody as we go forward, hopefully with just a 2-week period to get this budget finished. Thank you.
Okay, Assemblymember Bunshaw.
Thank you, chairs, for bringing us together today. My name is Mary Ann Buttonshaw, and I represent the 119th Assembly District, and I'm also the chair of small business. And most definitely, I own a small business, my husband and I, and clearly understand many of the hardships. But the answers that I receive are from the small business owners as they come to me to provide the insight of what they really need. I am a legislator. I do own a small business, but I don't know it all. So they are the ones that provide that insight. 2 things that we have put in the one house is the small business subtraction modification that changes from 15 to 25%, as well as the small business hardship saving account, which affords those owners, when they're talking about recruitment and retention, that they are able to go into that account with tax-deferred savings, and that's up to a 10% contribution. So these are just 2 small efforts that were brought forward by small businesses to identify what needs to be done. Is there more to be done? Yes. As my colleagues state, our small businesses are the foundation of the economy, and we need to work with them. So I ask that my colleagues provide insight as a chair so that we can continue to work to benefit them. Thank you.
Okay. Steve Otis?
Hi there, I'm Steve Otis. I'm chair of the Assembly Committee on Science and Technology, and I think not just in this year, but for the last few years, some of the best indicators of economic growth in New York State have been in the science and technology sector. We had the Micron success in Rochester that Assemblymember Sturpey was such a big part of, but also Empire AI, for which no new money is required in this year's budget, but that is a great initiative of the governors and the legislatures. In this year's budget, the governor does propose money to go to Stony Brook for quantum research and a quantum hub, and I think that that is just part of the whole statewide mix that is moving ahead on AI, quantum, very important. Also, through the budget process, I'm a strong supporter of Empire State Development's Connect All office, which does a lot to support broadband infrastructure and digital inclusion programs. So looking forward to good work of this committee and of the entire legislature, but there is good stuff going more broadly as it relates to economic development. A lot of it is based on science and technology innovation, which has been a success in New York. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Slater.
Thank you very much, Chairman. My name is Matt Slater, representative of the 94th Assembly District, here representing the Minority Conference, and I do want to thank you again for letting me speak today. As we enter the final stages of the budget negotiations, Our conference urges the importance of those discussions happening on a five-way basis to ensure that the diverse perspectives of all New Yorkers are fully represented and valued. New York's businesses continue to battle an unparalleled challenge, many of them due to the economic burden New York State places on them. I think we heard that just a little earlier from some of my colleagues here on the dais. Study after study reveals New York has one of the worst business climates in the nation because we have the nation's highest state and local tax burden and the most onerous regulations. And while I appreciate the investments being proposed, especially in new technology development, as my colleague has just described, these investments, they fail to address the fundamental issues of the overtaxation and overregulation of New York's businesses. To combat regulatory abuse, our conference has championed legislation A5582, which would create the Division of Regulatory Review and Economic Growth. This would have the authority to halt proposed regulations and issue enforceable recommendations to remove burdensome and, more importantly, outdated regulations. This is desperately needed since the elimination of the Governor's Office of Regulatory Reform, which occurred more than 10 years ago. In addition, New York's tax climate continues to push people and businesses to more friendly states. According to the 18th Annual Upstate New York Business Leader Survey, 57% of New York CEOs say that if they had to do it all over again, they would locate their business someplace else other than New York. There have been billions of new taxes proposed to fund this year's budget, which will only shutter more businesses and send more jobs elsewhere. This failed approach is why we lead the nation in outmigration. Instead of raising taxes, we should be cutting them here in New York. We need to encourage individuals and businesses to stay in New York, and we need to do our best to show that New York is a place to start and grow businesses of all sizes. We also need to create a new generation of opportunity for every New Yorker, and that won't be accomplished with Albany's traditional tax and spend policies. I look forward to working with this group through an open and transparent process to enact an on-time budget that exercises fiscal restraint and addresses the affordability crisis that's impacting every New Yorker. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Cashman?
Thank you, Chairs. As one of the newest members of the Assembly, I'll keep my comments brief as this is my first exercise, but I will say this. I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues in the Senate chamber as well as the Assembly chamber across the aisle to make sure that we're punching above our weight for small businesses in the North Country. One of the things that I'm excited about is the continued investment in the Cornell Center for Excellence for Food Agriculture as a region that is about the size of Rhode Island and very rural. Our farms and our small businesses are certainly wedded together, and we have much work to do, so I'm looking forward to the time ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Assemblymember Bendet?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for having the opportunity to speak on these issues. I am also a small business owner on Main Street, and I echo the comments of my colleagues about some of the stresses and pressures on small businesses. I'm not one of the 57%, though, that wish they didn't open in New York, though. I love New York. But I did want to just bring up and raise that one of the things on our agenda was putting $50 million for our counties for infrastructure. And I just think that's too small. I think that we could spend that in our own county. I think a lot of counties need help with infrastructure, and I think we should consider raising that almost tenfold. So that's my remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to announce that we have been joined by Senator James Sanders and also Senator Michelle Hinchy. I'll give the floor to Senator Hinchy.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to be here. I am excited about a lot of the proposals in our budget for economic development. Especially, we know tourism, specifically for me in the Hudson Valley, tourism is a major economic driver. And we again invest in our tourism matching grants program with an increase of $1 million. This is a lifeline for our counties to make sure that we are bringing in and attracting new people to our areas. So it's a great investment that we move forward. We've also created or proposed to create in our budget a restaurant tax credit for if they donate meals. Many of them are doing it already, but doing it for free. If they donate meals that would be excess food, that would be food that would just end up in a landfill, if they donate that to community partners, they're able to collect a tax incentive up to $10,000. This is a great way to help our small businesses, our small restaurants, and also make sure that our neighbors who are in need of food have good, delicious, locally cooked meals on their plates. We also propose to double the farm food donation tax credit, which is a similar program that encourages our farms to donate food to food banks and food pantries or to community organizations, and they're able to write some of that off. We want to double that to make it even more enticing. And we also have in our proposed budget an incentive to make it easier for residential folks to get heat pumps and to transfer, be able to retrofit their homes or get new energy systems, specifically as it pertains to heat pumps. We know that that is cost savings for families, but we also want to make sure that the way to do it is affordable too. And so this would be a big step forward in helping people transition to clean energy. I'm excited about the conversations going forward, and I thank you very much for the time.
Okay, well, the staff is in consultation with members and will continue to work through these issues. I want to thank everybody for attending today, and this meeting is concluded. Thank you.